So welcome to Thursday night, ladies. I don't have any gentlemen here tonight, but if you're watching recording, welcome. And of course, the first 2 weeks we have kind of dove into why we are here. And then last week, of course, we kind of dove into knowing what we want to accomplish. So now that we've kind of paired those things together and figured out what path we're on, why we're doing this journey, and if you have not done the 7 layers deep video, go to Optimal Awakenings Lifebook group page. At the top of the page in the announcements section, you will see that video. I encourage everybody to go do that. It's definitely the first step in helping you realize truly why you want to do this, but also then element 2 will help you picture what it is you want to accomplish. Of course, tonight, element 3, how do you create what you want? Think about that for a second. How do you create what you want? So if you know why you're here and you know what you want to accomplish, we're gonna put some pieces of the puzzle together tonight to help you pull yourself into the right direction. And this process here is just like I said in the first couple of things, it's never perfect. Some people think this process is going to be perfect. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be struggles. But if you do the first 2 elements and you work on this, you'll start finding a path. And for some of you, your mindset may be you're a little bit closed off to that, or you're sitting back like this going, I don't know about that. But what you're going to find after this week, especially next week, some of that closed offness that you're experiencing, or maybe that path you're not seeing, is going to start opening up for you. And you're truly going to see what this whole process with OptiVia is all about. And we tell people as coaches, we tell people this all the time. OptiVia truly picks up where other programs or diets leave off. Here again, you can lose all the weight you want. And I did Nutrisystem 20 years ago, and I lost 50 pounds. And they smack you on the hind end when you hit your goal, and they say, great job, Kenny. Out the door you go. And then like 90 days later, I gained 70. So I'm like, didn't learn anything in the process. Mindset, skill set, and action for element 3. Of course, we're going to discuss the strategies, tools, and methods we're going to use to equip you to create optimal health and well-being. Skill set's going to be discover the tools that will help you move forward, creating sustainable and long-term change. And then finally, the action is to empower you to evaluate your progress and adjust as necessary along the way. And I love this quote that Dr. A's got in the book on page 76. First, we make our habits, then our habits make us. So, Allie, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So let's just think about that for a moment. There's going to be 2 things really that this journey is going to do, like bare bones, because there's so much stuff in this book. It's incredible. And I want you to feel overwhelmed. So we first make our habits and our habits make us. Well, we can't make new habits if we aren't aware of the habits we already have. So a big part of this journey is we're just going to start building awareness of the things that we do on autopilot. And once we start building awareness of what we're doing on autopilot, then we can start to sort which habits that are on autopilot that are working for us and which ones that are stealing from what we want in our health. And then we can work on figuring out how we can change and create a new habit pattern in place of one that already exists. So many diets tell you, hey, you can't do this, or you can't have that, or this is not allowed. But the problem is, when we take something away, it leaves a hole. And that hole is going to do everything it can to get filled back up, right? So like Kenny was saying, when he did his other journey, they eliminated all this stuff from his eating. And so then the minute he stopped doing that, that hole was filled back up with all the old stuff that he used to do, because nothing was ever put in its place to change it. It was just he did something different, and then he didn't have to do that anymore, and everything came right back in. So we're going to build an awareness of what our autopilot settings are, habit-wise, thought-wise, and all the different healthy habit areas. Then the second part is, and this is the hard part, is we're going to take accountability for our actions. So we're going to take accountability that that's what we do. Now, I want to tell you, taking accountability for our actions can make people feel really uncomfortable. And if you have a negative inner self-talk that kind of crops up, that's when that thing is going to be shouting at you. And one of the things we want to do to create health and wellness is we want to take that voice out of your head. That's a Labrador brain voice. That is an emotionally driven voice. And what we're doing is we're just looking at information. We're looking at habit patterns, habit loops. We're building awareness of what we do in different situations, trigger systems that have been built in our brain. And then we're like, oh, okay, that's something that I do. I'm going to work with my coach to remove that and put something better and healthier in its place. And then you just do it consistently over time. And then that habit goes from being something you have to consciously do to then becoming something you unconsciously do, which the old habit used to be. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all, but I'm trying to kind of put it in really simple terms. So this element is about moving from the discovery phase. So discovering kind of what our autopilot settings are, what habits we have in place that we do without thinking about it, or that maybe we do thinking about it. And then we're going to get creative and we're going to figure out which one of those things we want to change right off the bat. So we need to make a decision on which micro habit category we'll start on. Okay. So he's got several steps on page 78 that we can look at. So we're just going through a process that's going to help you organize your goals in a way that you can focus on your primary habits. All right. One of the other things that we do that maybe we've done in diets before that doesn't serve us is we bite off way more than we can chew. We quickly become overwhelmed, choking on it, and we just scrap the whole thing and say, I can't do it. So this program, we don't want to do that. We want to take things a little bit at a time. And of course, let's say my friend Carol over here, she might be an awesome water drinker. That's not a habit that she's going to have to really spend a lot of time working on. But maybe she's been having trouble getting a good solid 8 hours of sleep at night. So then we work on, well, what are some things that we can do habit-wise to help build your ability to get a good night's sleep? So everybody works with their coach to kind of figure out which habit category to work on. Now, most of us joining this program, the first thing we start working on is the nutritional element of the category of the habits, which is, learning to kind of fuel our bodies well. And a lot of times it's getting the weight off and just kind of taking all these things from, how we've been eating back to a really healthy, I call it zeroing it out, but we're doing daily recommended allowance of sugar, of salt, of fats, of all those things where we might have been all over the place before. The nutritional part of the journey kind of takes us back to zero. And you notice a lot of things happen when that happens. Things taste better. You start to feel better. You have more energy, and we start there. A lot of us start with that healthy habit because physically we want to feel better before our brain is open to being able to focus on other things. When we don't feel good, it's hard to operate not from an emotional and reactive state. So the first thing Dr. Anderson has us do is work on just kind of getting a good structure consistency with our eating. So that is one of the 6 habits. Dr. Anderson said it's easier to work on one micro habit category at a time. That's why, again, a lot of people start out with the 5 and 1 or the 4 and 2. Once you get rock solid with that, which usually about by the end of the first month, you're pretty good at it. I mean, like, what you're doing, right? It's not rocket science. So then that's when you can start deciding which macro habit category you'd like to move to next. If you work on one macro habit at a time, you focus your energy and time on consistency and effectiveness to install a new habit. So, if we start with I'm just going to use the nutrition as an example. The new habits that help us with our nutrition are journaling what we're eating, right? Tracking that, eating every 3 hours, drinking our 64 ounces of water, and eating 6 times a day. And then having one of those or 2 of those meals, depending on which your program you're on, be a lean and green meal, and getting very comfortable with the making of that. So Dr. Anderson talks about structural tension charts to organize your habits. You pick a primary choice you're focusing on, and then what secondary choices support that primary choice. So each of the 6 macro habit categories, and just really quickly while we're talking about it, I don't want to spend too much time. So on page 56 of your life book, you can look back and see those 6 macro habit categories again. So Each of the 6 macro habit categories has a series of primary choices that are essential for mastering that area of transformation. The secondary choices are the habits of health actions that support you to reach the desired outcome. If you're like, Allison, I don't even know what the heck you're saying, in your habits of health book, you can check out part 1.3 and 1.4 in this book. That can kind of help break down what I'm telling you tonight. Take a little time. Like, we're not trying to rush through this. So take time to pop into that. And Dr. Anderson will break that down a little bit more in a more detailed explanation of structural dynamics and the difference between primary and secondary choices. So you're going to build a structural tension chart to help you organize your actions. For most of us, like I was saying before, healthy weight management is where we start. So if you look at page 80, you can see what a structural tension chart looks like. So first, your current reality. So let's say we're working on healthy weight management. So we're going to put what our weight is right now, something, that you feel is like maybe I don't fit my clothes or whatever, and maybe the size of your waist. Your secondary choices. Okay, so you've got your current reality and you've got secondary choices. These secondary choices are going to help you get the desired result, which is being at a healthy weight, right? Your waist being the circumference that the doctor says it needs to be that for you to be healthy. So the secondary choices are, I'm eating my fueling 6 times a day. I'm eating breakfast every day. I'm only eating low glycemic carbs. I have 1 lean green daily and I'm drinking 8 glasses of water. So those little secondary choices are what are going to get us to where we're trying to go, which is being healthy. So I did one on page 81. It gives you a chance to fill out a structural tension chart for yourself. So I put in my weight, I put in my waist size, and then I put those steps that he put over here, and then I put what my healthy weight would be and what my healthy waist size would be. Now that you see that, then it starts, you know the actions you need to take each day. So you're going to set up what's called a habit loop. Now, habit loops, a lot of the autopilot things that we do that are not great for us came from these habit loops that got built in our brain. Our brain wants us to be able to focus on what's going on right in front of us. So anything it can make into a habit loop that becomes an autopilot response for you, it is wired to want to do that more than anything. And that's why bad habits come and then they park it in your brain. But we can change that using that very same mental technology, but we just have to build a conscious awareness of it, and we need to take accountability of it. So if you look on page 83, you can see a habit loop. There's a cue, there's a routine, and there's a reward. So let's talk about a bad habit loop that I had, right? So the cue was I would sit down in the evenings to watch television, had a day, plop it down on the couch, right? So my routine is I cut on the show that I like to watch, and then what happens is triggered in my brain is I want to eat. So then I sit down, the show comes on. Oh, I always watch this show with popcorn. I go make the popcorn, put it in my lap, eat the popcorn, do this every single night, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I've created this habit loop. So to create a better habit loop, I have to break part of that routine. When that cue comes up, I have to develop a different response and then a different reward. So this is how you start to retrain the brain and create a new habit loop there. It starts with picking a cue to initiate the habit you want to create. So Dr. Anderson talked about, he put his tennis shoes next to his bed because he wanted to get more healthy motion every day. So I guess when he wakes up in his pajamas, he puts his tennis shoes on. I don't know. I can't figure it out. This is one of those stories he tells. And I'm like, so do you just put your tennis shoes on in your pajamas, or is it just a reminder when I get dressed, I'm going to put my tennis shoes on? But either way, those tennis shoes being right there as his feet hit the floor are his cue that the first thing he's going to do in the morning is go get his healthy motion. And then that triggers his routine of going and doing whatever it is he does on his exercise bike. And then his reward is He starts the day having kept a promise to himself. He starts the day getting to check his healthy motion out of the way. He starts the day with his metabolism fired up and he's ready to go. His brain's awake, everything's awake. So that is a new routine that he has. And the reward is really great, isn't it? So there's another one here on page 84. The cue might be his smartphone alarm goes off. The routine is I eat a portion controlled meal. The reward is I'm full or satiated, right? That's one of the ones that we do on the program, right? When our alarm goes off, we're like, oops, time to eat my fueling. We eat it. The reward is I feel satiated. I have great energy. I keep going. The weight is melting off and I'm feeling much better already. So he gives us again on page 85 a chance to build a habit loop. So I'm terrible about drinking water. I don't know why, I just am. So obviously for my habit loop, it was about water. So I said, I bought a 32-ounce water cup. That's my cue, because I will lose track of how many little 8-ounce cups I've had. So I can keep track of, have I had 32 ounces and then the next one. So I have my 32-ounce water cup. I have it with me. My routine is I drink a minimum of 2 of those a day. My reward is I am hydrated. My skin looks good. I've got water for my metabolism to metabolize that stored fats. I get to visit every bathroom in the state of Virginia all the time. So there's so many rewards for that. But that is something that you get a routine. It's consistent. You go. Consistency is key here, guys. So, think about how consistent we are with the bad habits, like me sitting down, turning on the show, making the popcorn, eating it. Like I would salivate when the show came on because it was my automatic response. You got to go get the popcorn. So consistency is key. We need to make sure that you can repeat your routine every single day so the new behavior will become automated. We do that by making sure nothing gets in the way of you being able to practice your new routines. And we want to make them as easy as possible so you can do them every day. So this leads us to a powerful tool in our arsenal, the micro habits of health. So step 3 is we want to identify what those micro habits are and how we're going to install them. So this is what I love. And this is the important thing. This is what I guess made so many of us fail previous diets, okay, or weight loss programs, because we tried to install things that were not we didn't answer this question right. So there's 3 questions you need to ask yourself as you prepare to install a new habit. Number 1, is it appealing? Do I want to do it? If you're saying, I need to do it, or I should do it, or I ought to do it, or my doctor wants me to do it, you're not going to do it. It has to be something that you want to do. Number 2, is it achievable? Right? Dr. Anderson loves to tell the story about the lady that's like, I'm going to do 10 push-ups a day. And he's like, well, how many can you do right now? And she's like, 0. And he goes, well, you're going to immediately fail. You can't do 10 push-ups right now. You got to start off with what you can do, and then you can work your way up to 10 push-ups. So you need to make sure whatever it is you're picking to work on is something you can actually do. Number 3, is it easily activated? Is there a prompt that reminds me to do it, right? Dr. Anderson in his shoes, me in the 32-ounce water bottle, right in the morning, right next to the sink, ready to be filled when the day starts. Is it so appealing? I can do it every day because this routine brings me such joy that I look forward to it. If that is the case, then great, just do it. But if it's something that will take effort, or if it's not something you love to do, then you need to proceed to the second question. So, I'll be honest. Water is easily achievable. It's easily activated, but it's not my favorite. And I've just learned to really focus on what I appreciate about hydration and what it does for me. Because I think I'm just not a thirsty person. So I have to really, the habit of drinking water is something that it's not an autopilot response for me yet. And I'm 6 years in. So just don't get frustrated if some of these things take time. And there may be some things that never autopilot for you, but don't give up. Stay consistent. Do the best that you can. You will get to the point where it will be something that isn't a struggle bus moment for you. The day that this happens to me with water, I'm going to be so excited. It's just not there yet. A micro habit of health is by definition easy to do, always within your ability in terms of ease or effort, and it takes into account other limiting factors such as time constraints. If you tell yourself, let's say healthy motion is what you're trying to work on, and you're like, I'm going to work out 2 hours a day, and you're not structured enough to make sure you get your laundry done, like that, you're biting off way more than you can chew. Maybe you start out with every 90 minutes, I'm going to set an alarm and I'm going to get up and move around for 2 minutes. Maybe you start there, right? Don't bite off more than you can chew. Make sure you can always do it. Consistency and predictability creates the new behavior. Okay, it's a small doable behavior that can always be completed. And the funny thing is, when you get to where you complete it easily, then your life kind of shifts. And then if you want to do more or you want to change it up, you can. Or if you want to start working on a different habit, you can. Because it sort of creates that space as it becomes an autopilot response for you. As we discussed in Dr. A's Habits of Health, it takes an average of 66 days to install a new habit. It could be as low as 18 days for easy habits, or several months or 6 years for more complex new behaviors. So, it depends. So don't think, oh my gosh, it took me 66 months to figure out this habit. Another one might come to you very easily. It's just whatever we struggle with. Sometimes that'll take longer to instill. And it's also how ingrained the habit is that you're trying to change. That plays a part too. So don't get frustrated. The way you'll know it's been installed is it will start getting a whole lot easier, right? So you can see on page 88, this wonderful little illustration about the micro habit, small choice, so easy. I don't make excuses. And then when you have those times when your motivation is high, maybe you up it a little bit, you do a little more things. With consistency over time, it becomes enough time that it becomes installed and ingrained, and you change something. And know that we have many not so great ingrained habits on board, and just be patient. We're just going to take care of them one at a time. Every single one that you change and you release gives you more freedom, gives you more wellness, and actually helps making undoing the next one easier and easier and easier and easier. Let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not taking too much time because I've talked a lot. This is a big one. Okay, we're doing good, I think. Nope, got 5 minutes. Okay. Kenny, am I doing okay? All right. Sorry, y'all. Just want to make sure I'm not talking about. I feel like this is the meat of this, right? The other stuff you can kind of deep dive in. Again, just talking about the routine, increasing awareness of time to slow down during fuelings is one of the ways he makes sure that he is consistent with sticking with the fuelings and that it makes him feel good. For mine, my habits of health routine, I was for healthy motion. So I told myself I would do 10 minutes of walking. Now I know myself well enough to know if I get out there and do 10 minutes, I'm going to do 30. But if I tell myself you have to do 30 minutes, I'm just going to not do it because I'm going to be like, oh, we're going to have 30 minutes. I can't. I don't have enough time. But I always have 10 minutes. I can always make 10 minutes. So for me, my micro habit of health was, girl, you're going to do 10 minutes of walking every day. And then the more I do it, the more it becomes easy. The more I crave it, the more I enjoy it. And then I build up that time and it becomes a habit. He talks about using the Habits of Health app, just tracking these kind of things. That's another thing that we'll talk about as we move through the life book, is the importance of tracking. Anytime you want to create a new habit, you really need to track it because that's going to help you with consistency. If you're not tracking it, if you're like, I will look for my phone while I'm talking on it. Let's just be honest here. So, I will not be able to tell you if I've had all my water unless I track it. So, if you track it, then it will become ingrained and you won't have to track it. But it is important to track it until it becomes ingrained. Step 4, connect present action to immediate and long-term rewards. That is so important because sometimes installing a new habit feels hard and we can get frustrated. All right. But keeping those rewards in sight is really going to help you be able to stick with it. Okay. So, we know that if we eat a donut, that's yum, yum good right in the moment. And you're like, woo, I got that immediately satisfaction. Okay. And that's why we're like, donut, donut, donut. But with a healthy habit like walking, for example, the first few times I do it, maybe it makes me tired, maybe it makes me sore, right? But then once I'm doing it consistently, it actually makes me feel so good, and my cardiovascular is improving, and I'm not huffing and puffing going up and down the stairs anymore. And I'm finding that I have a clearer head and I process stress better because I'm out walking in the fresh air every day. I need to connect what I'm doing to those immediate rewards of, hey, I did it. I can give myself a high five for keeping myself a promise to myself. But the long-term reward of every single day I do this, it's moving me further and further and further down the track on that tension chart towards what I want, which is to be a healthier person, live a healthier life, not have my health and wellness holding me back from the things that I want to do in my life. How many times have you gone to bed and said you're going to get up in the morning and exercise, and yet when morning comes, you're once again hitting the snooze button or going, oh, look, it's raining, I'm not going to do it today. Or how often have you spent time on vacation saying how you're going to eat healthier on vacation, or you're going to eat healthier right when you get home, but the next day you are getting a donut and coffee and heading out the door? Like, how many times have we done that when we just completely throw our health in the toilet over vacation and we eat all the things, but like, when I get home, I'm going to be great. And you get home and you're at the store throwing Oreo cookies in your cart. So we won't do that if we connect our future self, the healthy version of us, the one that we're aiming for, back to our current self right here. And we realize the immediate gratification is what we've been doing. And what we want to do instead is we want to focus on the gratification of getting over here to this part of your structural tension chart. And so he talks about on page 94 and page 95, the intertwining of your present self and your future self. Sometimes we can't see, like I will tell you, I look back at the person who started this program 6 years ago, and she couldn't understand the me that I am today. I don't think she even believed I could get to here. So we need to be able to connect our present self with our future self. And we do that with just these little baby steps of habits. And every single time we keep a promise to ourselves, every single time we do that cue, trigger, reward, and we do it towards a habit that we want to create, we take a step towards our future self. And we do it thinking of, well, I'm doing this because to be my future self, this is how I have to act right now. Right? I can't keep acting the way I was acting and think I'm going to get over to here. I have to focus on, will this action that I'm doing right now take me to where I want to be over here? So the habit loops are what really help us do that. They break it down into little teeny bite-sized pieces, and it gets easier, and the loop becomes easier and easier and easier until it becomes a habit. Let's look really quickly at page 96. So what I've been leading up to, all the stuff I've been talking about, is about creating a transformational cycle. When we start this program, a lot of us are stuck in cycles that are actually pulling us away from better health. So we're going to start creating cycles that they may take as much effort, right, as what we were doing before, but instead of taking us backwards, they're taking us forwards, which is so much better. So if you don't believe you have it in you, if you don't think you're able to do it, trust me, if you really look at your life right now, you might go, actually, I'm already kind of doing hard with the choices I'm making. So if I'm already doing hard, why not do hard for some things that are actually going to move me in the right direction? And that can really help you go, you know what, I can do this. So once you pick the habit you're installing, we're going to decide on the cue to activate that new habit or action that you're going to be taking. And then we're going to think about what the reward is. Why are we doing this? This is the reward for that. So the cue, that ignites the routine or the action, the reward that we get from that, and then what does that put in the bank for our long-term investment of our health? So he shows on page 97 his smartphone alarm. So setting his alarm is the cue. Not hard to do, right? When that alarm goes off, what do? We grab a fueling, open it, we eat it. Now, what's the reward for that? Well, we fed ourselves something that was not junk. It's good, and it's working towards where we want to go with our health, weight management, right? So that's our instant reward. And then the long-term investment is you do that and you do it consistently. What's going to happen? You're going to get to your goal. Yay! It's the best. So I love, we start with that. I did mine's about water. That's what I filled in. A big surprise. And so in summary, one of the key ways to learn and grow is to recall what you're learning and how you're going to apply it to your new story. Take some time and write down the new ways you're going to install your habits. So if you're like, Allison, this is blowing me away, I don't even know where to start. This is where you can connect with your coach and let them know which habit you're going to work on. Probably the weight management one. We can probably start with the one Dr. Anderson talks about. Smartphone, fueling, the reward, the long-term benefits from that. Kenny, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, and so there's so much to go over here, but it seems like it's a lot. But this is where you truly break down what's going on with every one of your processes that you're going through, whether it's your nutrition or your hydration, sleep, motion, environmental management, emotional management. So, and the great thing is, and I'll go back to Allie's example of just getting out and walking every day. He says in here, remember, your present self and your future self. There's two little circles on page 94. You want to create a present self that you don't know right now. You don't know. Allie 6 years ago didn't know what her present self would look like.
No.
And now that she's there, here again, we're still moving forward. So there's another present self that maybe she's got in her mind that she needs to create. But 6 years ago, she didn't picture herself where she is now. So to go back to her example, your present self says, I just want to walk 10 minutes a day. But your future self may say, I'm going to walk 45 minutes a day. But what happens in this process is we look for ways to take ourselves out of the game. And so sometimes we set intentions of, hey, I'm going to walk 10 minutes tomorrow morning when I wake up. And we wake up and we hit the snooze alarm. So what you've got to do is create some negative consequences with your actions. And what do I mean by that? Invite your next door neighbor to get up in the morning and walk with you. You've got to raise your standards. And you need to drag somebody along in this process with you, because if you fail to do that and you try to do this alone and you're in the closet alone, your integrity over time, you may start off great, but over time, you're going to allow your environment, which we'll talk about in element 6, to drag you back to where you started when you began. And for some people, that's really hard. And that creates that yo-yo mentality that some people get to. For your fuelings, for example, for many of us, tracking, writing down, here again, I was not good at that when I started, but when I had an area where I struggled, my coach suggested maybe write down what you're consuming for the next week. And I was like, why do I want to do that? I don't want her to know what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
Busted. And that broke the cycle of me lacking integrity with myself when nobody was looking.
Yeah.
So, and I've had clients who admitted, hey, I go pick up dinner and I grab 2 donuts out of the self-serve section. I ate them on the way home. I throw the trash out the window. I know it's bad, but I've heard the story. And I throw the trash out the window before I get home and I eat dinner. But here again, looks can be deceiving. You know what you did was wrong. The rest of the family thinks you're doing something right. And they're like, you're just not losing weight, honey. I don't understand it. But you're eating 12 donuts a week. So here again, if that integrity issue is a problem for you in whatever area you're starting, then you need to do something to hold yourself accountable. And it can start basically with envisioning, just like Allie said, what is my future self going to look like 5 years from now? Will I go on vacation and stress over vacation and just pig out all week and then come home and go get Oreos? Or will my future vacations and future self look like? I'm going to try to keep myself between the tracks. Yeah, I may have one meal a day that's not in my reality because we're at the beach. We're going to go get seafood, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The rest of the vacation or the rest of the day or the next day, I'm going to make healthy choices until the next meal. When I get home, I'm not going to go home and jump on the scale. I'm going to go home and really dial myself back in, not worrying about the scale, but focusing on eating clean for 4 or 5 days. And then after that, maybe I can go get on the scale and see where I'm at just to make sure I'm between the rails. And so,
or like Dr. Anderson with the shoes, you bring your tennis shoes on vacation.
yeah,
You have excursions or things that you do at the beach. Maybe before y'all used to just bring a big old cooler of beer and food and sit on the beach for 8 hours. Maybe now you bring your tennis shoes and you start the day when the sun comes up, you walk down the beach.
yep. And for sure, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.